This is Big Boss, and in this tier list we trust.
Hey there, Metal Gear fans. Today we're diving into the stealthy world of Solid Snake and his epic adventures as we rank the mainline Metal Gear Solid games in our very own tier list. So grab your cardboard box and codec because we're about to infiltrate some top secret territory with a healthy dose of humor and sarcasm, all while staying as casual as Otacon in a lab coat. Let's get started.
Big Boss here. Get ready to bite into the best game ever. Snake Eater.
Snake Eater absolutely deserves its S tier ranking. And let me tell you why. First off, the story is just incredible, taking us back to the Cold War era and introducing us to Naked Snake, who later becomes the legendary Big Boss. Did you know that Snake Eater was originally planned to be a PlayStation 3 title, but due to the console's delayed release, it was developed for the PlayStation 2 instead? The game has a fantastic cast of characters, from the badass boss to the quirky and fascinating support team. And let's not forget the amazing boss battles, like the unforgettable fight with the End. Fun fact, if you set your PlayStation 2's internal clock forward a week during the battle with the End, you can find him dead from old age. The soundtrack is simply iconic. Who can ever forget that theme song, right? The gameplay was also a game changer, with the jungle setting and camouflage mechanics offering a fresh take on the stealth genre. Snake Eater introduced survival elements like hunting for food and treating wounds, which added depth to the experience. Kojima even considered using smell as a gameplay element by having a scratch and sniff sticker on the game's cover, but the idea was ultimately scrapped. The game also featured some of the most memorable moments in the series, like climbing the seemingly never-ending ladder or witnessing the emotional final confrontation between Snake and the boss. Fans and critics alike praised Snake Eater for its rich narrative and engaging gameplay, making it a true standout in the Metal Gear Solid series.
I'm no hero. Never was. I'm just an old killer, hired to do some wet work.
Guns of the Patriots comfortably takes its spot in the A tier, serving as a solid conclusion to Solid Snake's story. The game tackled themes like the effects of war on society and the consequences of relying too much on technology. Did you know that the game's development cost was reportedly around $60 million, making it one of the most expensive games ever made at the time? MGS4's gameplay introduced new mechanics like the Octo Camo suit, which allowed players to blend in with their surroundings seamlessly. The game also featured the return of the beloved cardboard box, which was sorely missed in MGS3. MGS4 was praised for its beautiful graphics and impressive attention to detail. From the realistic animations to the detailed character models, the boss battles in MGS4 were pretty epic, with the Beauty and the Beast unit being a particular highlight. Remember how intense the fight against Crying Wolf was? And let's not forget that climactic final battle against Liquid Ocelot, which was a true test of endurance for both the characters and the players. The game's soundtrack, composed by Harry Gregson Williams, was another standout element, perfectly capturing the emotional weight of Snake's final mission. Metal Gear Solid 2 lands in the B tier, not because it's a bad game, but because it's a victim of its ambition. Set after the events of MGS1, the game follows both Solid Snake and the newcomer Raiden as they deal with the enigmatic group known as the Patriots. MGS2 attempted to tackle complex themes like censorship, manipulation, and the nature of reality, but its convoluted plot left some fans scratching their heads. Nevertheless, the game introduced new gameplay mechanics like first-person aiming and hanging from ledges, which added more depth to the stealth experience. The graphics were a significant leap forward from MGS1, with realistic character models and dynamic weather effects, such as the rain-soaked opening sequence on the tanker. While some fans were initially disappointed by the bait-and-switch with Raiden taking center stage, the game has gained a cult following over the years for its ambitious themes and memorable moments. Did you know that the game's script was heavily influenced by the 9/11's terrorist attacks, causing some last-minute changes to the story? The boss battles, such as the high-octane battle with Fat Man on roller skates and the tense standoff with Vamp, were memorable and unique. The soundtrack, composed by Harry Gregson Williams and Norihiko Hibino, maintains the high standard set by MGS1, with tracks like Fortune and Yell Dead Cell adding tension and excitement to the game. The game that started it all, MGS1 is a true classic that still holds up today. Playing as Solid Snake, you're tasked with infiltrating Shadow Moses Island to neutralize the terrorist threat of Foxhound and their new walking nuclear tank, Metal Gear Rex. The game introduces us to memorable characters like Revolver Ocelot, Psycho Mantis, and Sniper Wolf, each with their unique boss battles. Remember when Psycho Mantis read your memory card and forced you to switch controller ports? Genius. MGS1 also established the series' trademark blend of stealth, action, and cinematic storytelling. The game's graphics, while dated by today's standards, were cutting edge at the time, and the iconic character designs remain etched in our memories. Fans were blown away by the cinematic experience, and the game quickly became a must-play title for the PlayStation. A lesser-known fact about MGS1 is that Hideo Kojima originally intended for the game to have a more realistic art style, but technical limitations led to the stylized look that we know today. The soundtrack, composed by Tappy and Kazuki Muraoka, adds depth and intensity to key moments, like the iconic Encounter theme that plays during enemy confrontations. Next up in the A tier, we have Metal Gear Solid, Peace Walker. Initially released for the PSP, this game took a different approach by implementing a mission-based structure that allowed for shorter, more focused gameplay sessions. Despite being a portable title, Peace Walker managed to pack in a deep and engaging story, continuing the journey of Big Boss following the events of MGS3. The game introduced the Fulton recovery system, which became a fan favorite and later appeared in MGSV. It allowed players to recruit enemy soldiers and expand their private military force, known as the Militaires Sans Frontières. The game also had a co-op mode, which was a blast to play with friends, whether you were tackling missions or taking on the gigantic AI-controlled Metal Gear machines together. One little-known fact about Peace Walker is that the game was initially intended to be MGS5. Hideo Kojima even referred to it as Metal Gear Solid 5 inches during its development. The soundtrack, composed by Nobuko Toda and Kazuma Jinuchi, features memorable tracks that beautifully capture the game's emotional moments, like the Heaven's Divide theme song. Another A-tier entry is Metal Gear Solid, the Twin Snakes,
captured by next-generation special forces being led by members of...
This game updated the graphics, added new gameplay mechanics from MGS2, and featured re-recorded voice acting with the original cast. The result was a fresh take on a classic that made it more accessible to a new generation of gamers. However, some fans argue that certain changes, like the over-the-top cutscenes and the updated soundtrack by Norihiko Hibino, took away from the original's charm. The game's sales figures were decent but not outstanding, which may have been partly due to the GameCube's relatively smaller user base compared to other consoles. Despite these criticisms, the Twin Snakes remains a beloved entry in the series for many fans. It's worth noting that Silicon Knights, the development studio behind the game, worked closely with Kojima Productions to ensure a faithful adaptation of the original vision. Finally, we have Metal Gear Solid, Portable Ops, which lands in the C tier. Although it was an ambitious attempt to bring the MGS experience to the PSP, it suffered from some limitations due to the hardware. The game's controls were somewhat clunky, and the lack of a second analog stick made the gameplay more challenging than it needed to be. However, the game did introduce some fascinating ideas, such as the recruitment system that would later be refined in Peace Walker. The story in Portable Ops is set between MGS3 and Peace Walker and follows Naked Snake, Big Boss, as he uncovers a plot by rogue Fox unit members to create a new Metal Gear. The game does have its share of memorable moments, like the intense fight against Python, a former comrade turned enemy. One lesser-known fact about Portable Ops is that it was the first game in the series not directed by Hideo Kojima, though he served as a producer. Instead, the game was directed by Masahiro Yamamoto, a designer who had previously worked on several other Metal Gear titles. The game's soundtrack, composed by Norihiko Hibino and Takuma Sato, features a mix of new tracks and familiar themes, creating a fitting backdrop for Snake's adventure. Despite its flaws, Portable Ops is still an enjoyable entry in the Metal Gear Solid series and is worth playing for fans who want to experience the full saga. Its unique blend of classic MGS gameplay and innovative features make it a fascinating, if somewhat flawed, part of the franchise's history. On our list in the S tier is Metal Gear Solid V, The Phantom Pain, which is widely regarded as one of the best stealth games of all time. This game took the series to new heights with its open-world design, offering unparalleled freedom and countless ways to approach missions. The game's massive world was filled with side missions, hidden secrets, and memorable locations that kept players engaged for hours on end. The story of The Phantom Pain follows Venom Snake, aka Big Boss, as he seeks revenge on those who wronged him, culminating in a twist that left fans reeling. Some of the most memorable moments in the game include the intense fight against the supernatural sniper Quiet and the horrifying encounter with the supernatural parasites, the Skulls. The game's soundtrack, composed by Ludwig Forssell, features both original tracks and licensed songs from the 1980s, adding to the game's immersive atmosphere. The game was also the first in the series to feature Kiefer Sutherland as the voice of Snake, replacing longtime series veteran David Hayter. Despite some controversy surrounding the game's development and the departure of Hideo Kojima from Konami, MGSV remains a masterpiece that stands tall among its peers. And that wraps up our Metal Gear Solid mainline games tier list. Remember, this is just my take on these incredible games, and your rankings may vary. Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments below, and let's keep the conversation going. Thanks for joining me on this nostalgic journey through one of gaming's most iconic franchises, and until next time, keep sneaking.